want to eliminate what they call the deep state. The deep state is a cadre of professionals dedicated to honoring the Constitution, the laws of this country, and carrying out the policies of the Congress and the President. The deep state dedicated to carrying out the policies of the President. The deep state dedicated to carrying out the policies of the President.
You know, I'm starting to think that Steny Hoyer was lying to us. The deep state is dedicated to carrying out the policies of the president. I don't think so. I think the president does what the World Economic Forum and masters of the banking cartels want. That's what I think. That's really what I think. That's what they're there for. That's what they do. And then the president says we're doing that. And then the deep state backs up, not the president, but the powers that be. That's what I think. What do you think? I'm going to ask you guys, what the hell do you think? I mean, how do we know what is right and not with these people? All right, let's have some fun with these idiots. Here's some deep state for you. Do we go with lunacy or do we have chaos? What's going on? Folks, the United Kingdom and England, they were part of the European Union. Not anymore. They Brexited. France, which still is part of the European Union, they said, we're going nuclear. We're going all in. Germany said, we don't like nuclear. And they shut them all down. And now they're relying on coal. So coal, to say it's bad, is that climate lunacy? You know, so which is it? What's more damaging to environments? This is a very touchy subject, by the way, but the European Union has now said nuclear power is green. So why hasn't Germany turned on their nuclear power plants, recommission them? Or did they turn them into housing for the homeless that they imported from other countries? There you go. Step right into your reactor. It's your private little warm room. We'll see you in a couple of days when you grow some more arms out your head. Anyways, look out, folks. The lunacy is far from over. Far from over. And have you noticed that when we see Gretchen the Climate Grinch, you know, Greta, she's like a troll. Anyways, Greta Thunberg, she's always dressed in puffy jackets with little mittens on her hands and a little hat on her head. She's just awful. They're all awful, folks. They truly are. The deep state. The deep state. They all want to be like each other. Now, you've got Biden, who used a private email to send business messages to, well, Hunter and others, right? Doing his side deals, which is illegal, folks. It's illegal. Well, now in Iowa, the governor there, Kim Reynolds, she has been accused, folks, accused of using a burner account on X, a fake account, to criticize Trump. I bet Joe Biden is just as proud of her as he is of his son, Hunter. What is wrong with these people that if you want to criticize Trump and you're the fucking governor of the state, go to a microphone. There's a microphone. You stand in front of the microphone, just like I do, or sit. And if you're a governor, I bet the media will even show up. And you can say whatever you want. Why would you use a fake account on Twitter X? Especially if it's going to get you points with Democrats, right? You're trying to impress those people. And so why not just say, hey, it's me. I'm criticizing Trump. Give me the points, right? It's all about the political points. Okay. Thanks for changing the name on that, man. It just popped through on my screen. All right. Folks, it's crazy. The whole thing is crazy. Let me give you some more chaos. These are big thoughts for a Thursday. It's almost as good as Deep Thoughts by Jack Handey. If you know that reference, you're old. Now, in Warsaw, Poland, it looked like a bloodbath on the streets. It was a sea of red clothing with white mixed in it. They're estimating that somewhere between, 150 and 200,000 people came to the streets and demanded the release of the political prisoners who were locked up by the Polish prime minister. And the president of Poland, Duda, he came out and he says, I'm going to pardon those two ministers again. Now, here's the deal. If you're the president and you pardon someone, that's it. You can't retry them. Well, at least in America, you can't. You can't rearrest them. They're fucking pardoned for whatever crime. So you pardon the crime as much as you pardon the person. I guess Poland, maybe they really are as stupid as all those fucking jokes from the 1980s. Well, at least the socialists are stupid. By the way, I'm having a delicious, you guessed it, hot toddy. Let's sneak in a little bit of that good old Scottish whiskey in here. Anyways, now, and that's not the 18 year. I would not dare defile an 18 into a, hot toddy unless I had no other choice. No other choice. Now, here's the deal. 200,000 people, up to, showed up in the streets and said, let them go. Do you realize how close they are to Bastille Day? Like France. France had King Louis and Marie Antoinette, the bitch, the Hillary of her time, the Pelosi of her time, except she was much younger than those two fossils. Not that old people are fossils and bad, but hey, we're fossils, okay? Aging like fine wine. Okay, so 200,000 people. Let's just say the number is 200,000. How many people did it take to storm the Bastille, to free all the political prisoners that King Louis and Marie Antoinette locked up because they didn't like what they had to say? We're that fucking close, folks. Political prisoners, a lawless government, the prime minister who ignores another portion of the government, the president. Are we going to have law? Or are we going to have chaos? Law or chaos? Now, I'll tell you what, folks. When we have law, there's process. When you have process, it takes a little time. But when you have law and process, you also have set established rules. And get this, folks, a pardon does not take a committee, a court, or a fucking jury. It's that fast. Just like in History of the World Part 1, when the fake King Louis signed the pardon, right? That's it, done. Now, when it comes to getting stuff done by you or me, chaos is much faster. Because now we're not worrying about laws. We're not worrying about precedent. We're not worrying about process. All we're worried about is results. 200,000 Poles could easily free the two ministers of parliament, but not without spilling more red paint. So I think the government over there needs to say, do we want red paint or do we want red pavement? I'm not suggesting they're going to have civil war there, folks. I'm suggesting we're getting much closer to that day. Are you prepared? Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. We have January 6 prisoners here. And we as Americans believed that we have law, procedure, process. They have fucking failed for 3 years. We have seen kangaroo court, ruthless, lawless prosecution, lying prosecutors, lying law enforcement. You notice how every time I say lie and law, that's all about the government. How close is America, and how hard would it be for us to take back control? I want you to think about it. I'm not suggesting violence, insurrection, or anything of the sort, but I want you to think about the Declaration of Independence just for a moment. Big Thoughts Thursday. Think about the Declaration of Independence. All those complaints, that fucking list and litany of things the government of King George was doing to American colonies. Now, I don't like it anymore in America when the president, Congress, the states, or local dickhead government agents make my life difficult. It is no better than if the King of England does it, and just because they're also supposed to be Americans, that I'm supposed to stomach and accept what it is they're doing to me. I don't like any of it. Fuck them. So again, that litany of complaints on the Declaration of Independence, it is matched today, and I would say in many ways even worse than what King George was doing. And what makes it worse, it's being done by Americans, so-called Americans. So let me ask you this, as a thought experiment, not a suggestion, but as a thought experiment. How many Americans would it take to storm the Capitol en masse, armed and demanding the release of all January 6th prisoners, and they have 10 minutes to comply? We want to start seeing the hostages released because they're being held hostage against America's Constitution. Truly, folks, the Constitution is being held hostage with those men and women. If now someone would say, shit, John, they'll just bring in attack helicopters. They're going to bring in attack helicopters and gun down 200,000 Americans. The government of the United States of D.C., because it's not the United States of America in D.C., folks, it's the United States of D.C. They're going to kill 200,000 Americans in cold blood like that? Or would they say they engaged us as insurrectionists and terrorists, therefore fully justified? If they did that, they would kill more people than died in the Civil War, I believe. Certainly almost 3 times. It would be actually 3 times. 200,000 is 3 times the number of men killed in Vietnam. Would they kill us, folks? Do they have the fucking balls to do that? Because if they did, what would the rest of the nation do? I would say starting at every small city, every federal building, every federal branch, every federal bureaucracy, whether considered good or bad or indifferent, would be vacated that day and occupied by the American people, and kick the fucking federal government back to D.C. if that's where you want to be. It's interesting, is it not, to think about, would they really kill us? Not just 10 or 20 people, folks, 200,000 people. Would they bring the army in? Could the army withstand 200,000 raging, pissed off, armed Americans? Would they follow those orders and stand in front of them? Could 200,000 people push them out of the way? Now, let me take this one step further as a thought experiment, and a thought experiment only. If the U.S. Army stood in the way of freeing Americans who have committed no crime and are being held as political prisoners, would those people be guilty of crime? Protecting the government, which is unlawfully behaving, and therefore they're committing treason against the people by using themselves, the military, as a bulwark against the freedom of others? And could they not be summarily dismissed at that point at the end of a barrel? The same way the government federal, state, and local will dispense with you at the end of a gun barrel if you do not obey them and in any way threaten their lives. They'll just shoot your ass dead. Again, it's a thought experiment. Think about how the government treats you. Think about how the government treats our neighbors. Think about how the government treats veterans, patriots, parents. Think about it. Do we want law or do we want chaos? Now, I remember George H.W. Bush in his bullshit 1,000 points of light, New World Order, kiss my ass speech when he said, we're going to have this New World Order. It'll have the law, not the law of the jungle, right? He called it the law of the jungle. We're going to have order in the world, not the law of the jungle. He's an asshole. He just is, or was. Who is the law of the jungle, folks? Who operates under that? Governments. I don't like what you're doing, so I'm going to go to war with you and start killing everyone and then say it's justified because we're a government. Understand, folks. This is where we're at. Back to Poland. I do not know if the Polish people were successful in commanding and demanding the prime minister obey the president's pardon and release the two ministers of parliament, since he pardoned them. I guess we'll hide and watch. I guess we will. I love it when Chase Bank sends me emails telling me how much money they're going to give me. Fucking idiots. Okay, Darcy T got a hold of me earlier today, and she said this. You guys know Darcy T from Sunday Night Live. She like many others, Orlando, Bonnie Blue, Chin Music. I got to be sure and use the proper names. Right, send information to me directly through Uman, Jolene, etc. So Darcy T says, I just watched your Wednesday show on YouTube. That would have been last night. She says, do you recall that right before the pandemic started back in 2020, a bunch of CEOs, including Bill Gates, stepped down from their positions? Wonder if the big list of CEOs that have stepped down within the past 7+ days means that there will be another event coming along shortly. Now, I read that and went, whoa. I do remember years ago CEOs stepping down en masse, important people giving up positions of power and authority and wealth. And I remember also about a decade ago, maybe it was only 8 years, there was a lot of that going on, plus law enforcement, chiefs of police all over the country were saying, you know what? Done, retired. And I surmised at the time they didn't like what government was commanding them to do, and that they had heard things they didn't like. I am guessing that it rubbed them the wrong way. And you never rub another man's rhubarb. Right? And they were like, you know what? I'm not going to. As it is, I think police in metropolitan cities, right, the incorporated police department, they already violate the fuck out of the Constitution and carry with them an attitude that its policy is more important than the law. That itself, folks, in my estimation, is not just unconstitutional, it's a fucking heresy. When a police department policy and a city policy are supreme over the law of the land. For example, shall not be infringed. How many cities and how many states think they're superior to the Constitution and our right to be free and protect ourselves? It's crazy, folks. Deep thoughts. Deep thoughts. In fact, I want to give you some more deep thoughts. Congress is debating, folks. Well, not just Hunter Biden, not just Joe Biden, and where's the fucking impeachment? Right? They're now debating about funding Ukraine further. Why? And it's not just that I don't like war. It's not just that I don't think it's a fucking sham to make the rich rich and the powerful more powerful. This funding of Ukraine, why are they debating when the Pentagon itself, the war machine, has revealed that over $1 billion in weapons from the United States government was sent to Ukraine has been unaccounted for. $1 billion in weapons are now out there, circulating around the fucking planet. Are they in Eastern Europe? Are they in Western Europe? Are they in Central Europe? Are they in North Africa? Did they find their way into boats, ships, and sailed across the high seas over to Central America, South America? Where did they go? $1 billion. These evil fuckers have lost. Not to mention, folks, almost 40,000 guns, aka arms. 40,000 guns. Those are M16s, squad automatic weapons. They have been improperly monitored. In other words, they don't know where the fuck they are either, right? $1 billion, just poof. Well, I'm sure that billion didn't come out of the cut that the big guy got. I'm sure that billion didn't come out of the cut that Zelensky has taken for himself. Wow. Yeah, I'm telling you. Big thoughts. Are we supposed to continue to trust these fucking people? Well, here we go. Let's just have some fun. It has hit the fan, right? It has. And I got to tell you, we've all had it with those fuckers in D.C. They're doing nothing. And they're not obeying the Constitution. Hence our discussion today. Because if the government did its job, if the government operated under the Constitution, we wouldn't have the problems we have. If the government obeyed common sense, if critical thinking was involved, real statistical analysis, and a true and proper reading and understanding and application of the law, aka Constitution, we wouldn't be having these fucking problems now, would we? Having said that, also get your questions down below. I want to hear what you're thinking on this Big Thoughts Thursday. Marge Taylor Greene is continuing to try and sound like an American, a real American. She is now criticizing Speaker MAGA, Make America Great Again, Mike Johnson. And she says he's failing the Republicans and suggests he may need to be removed. I'll tell you what, if he's failing in any form or fashion, remove him now. Quit fucking talking about it. Take action. I mean, if you want a good idea to die, you send it to fucking committee. Stop sending shit to committees. We got a great blue ribbon panel committee that's going to meet in 6 years, and we'll address what happened 12 years ago. We'll get to the bottom of it. Don't you worry. These fucking idiots. Anyways, Marge Taylor Greene says this about Speaker Johnson. Quote, brings me closer and closer to vacating the chair because I have absolutely had it. She's talking about vacating the chair. That is, kicking the speaker out of his fucking chair. And I agree with her in this sense that we have all had it with all of the fuckery in D.C. I've had it. They have the rules clearly in front of them. Common sense, decency. Fuck it. That's what they're saying, folks. Fuck it. You're evil, and you're evil in D.C. So why should I be good? Because you're all evil too. And all they do is point fingers at each other and say, you're the bad guy. And they don't do anything. 200,000 Poles, Polish people in the streets. 200,000 Americans armed in D.C. would be one hell of a fucking show. I'm not saying it's going to happen. And if you want, look up the Bonus Army, United States of America, back in the 1930s. Look up the attempt to take over the government that was exposed by Chesty Puller. I'm just thinking of these great men who fought for this country and the people that supported them. And everyone who had everyone's back. And today, what do we get? One loudmouth bitch that everyone hates in D.C. She can't make up her mind whether she's going to suck on the toes of Kevin McCarthy or scream and yell for impeachment and straightening everything out. Which is it? Anyways, let's do this. Let's look at this topic on this Big Thoughts Thursday. President Trump, candidate President Trump, promises the largest deportation effort in the history of our country. And he says, quote, "We have no choice." Hear, hear, President Trump. We do need to immunize the nation from foreign invaders by deporting them. I couldn't agree more. Show of hands, who thinks he's actually going to do it? Who thinks he's going to do it and the rest of the country refuses to obey the command because they're a bunch of deep state operatives? Federal and state authorities getting in the way, them not really even trying or giving a shit, just driving their cars around in a circle saying, geez, I don't see any of them today. Or will the people of America say, yeah, we've had it with these fucking illegals. Point them out. There they are over there. The bad guys are over there. And you go get them. You ask for their ID. Are you an American? When they don't hable, you kick them the fuck out. When they go durka, 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 you kick them the fuck out. You know they came from Mexico, so you drive them to the border. You put them on a catapult and you say, bye-bye. I don't care anymore. I don't think I should suffer. My kids should suffer. My grandchild should suffer. Your kids, your grandchildren. None of us should suffer so that someone from a shithole can live off of us like parasites. And that is precisely what it is. It's a parasitic draw on a country that is already financially bankrupt. And the leadership is morally bankrupt. I don't know. Am I making myself clear? Mr. Uman, am I being ambiguous about my feelings and thoughts? Am I being fucking clear? I think so. Anyways, what can you do? All we can do is get ready. And that's really what I do here is, get prepared. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, because you're going to need it. Get a plan together. Understand where you're at in that 10-mile radius around you in the middle. What's around you? What's around you in every direction? Who are the people there? What are the resources? Is food locally grown, food locally available, or are you going to have to rely on preps and preps only? If shit goes bad for a week, are you good? 2 weeks, 4 weeks? Are you near a military base? Are you near a river? Are you near the Gulf or the ocean? How many fucking Democrats live in your area? How much ammo do you have to say hello with? All of those are questions about your plan and the area you live in. I don't know, at some point, I know Jolene's not here with us at the moment. I think she stepped out. Do prepper coach again, because I wonder how many people actually think about their plan and what is going to really happen. This isn't just a place to come and bitch. It is a place where I come and we all talk and we educate each other and we're like, I get it. I better fucking do those things. Getting prepped, right? Preparedmind.club, right there. There it is. That's the place you go to buy shit you need to get prepared or get ideas or get prices to compare against your local stores. I don't give a shit. I just want you prepared. The preparedmind.club has not made me rich. It's just a place to offer things that people may not know where else to go to get. It's a place to give you an idea of where to get things. And you guys actually support it with I'm going to use the term sales we get, pays and helps pay for our servers, our internet access, our expenses, and our fucking taxes. Did you know the preparedmind.club pays taxes? It's fucking stupid, isn't it? It's stupid. I pay taxes to have a place to go and tell people you need this shit. Unfucking believable. There's no fucking winning with these cocksuckers. All right, let's do this. Let's go to the inner circle. And we're back, wearing my fuck around and find out maroon shirt. That's right, we did the dry fit shirts. We did forest green, royal blue. We did the burgundy shirt. I think there was another color. Can't remember. Anyways, you guys bought the hell out of them. That was fun. I still like to wear it in public. It has the silhouette of one of the most famous and hated men in America, right? Does everyone remember who he was? I'll see if the name shows up in the comments there, Mr. Uman. I'll give you guys 3 minutes. Who was that young American man who everyone said that he really became the symbol of fuck around and find out after the 2020 protests? All right, Mr. Uman, who do we want to put up first, though, as far as questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, deep thoughts? It's Uman who has, oh, shit. Right off the fucking bat. Here's a quote. To me, boxing is like a ballet, except there's no music, no choreography, and the dancers hit each other. That is Jack Handy, who on Saturday Night Live back in the early 90s, they had, it was a joke. It looked like a fucking Hallmark moment with some scenery of the ocean or vistas of valleys and mountains and trickling streams, and Jack Handy's voice would come on and it'd say something brilliant like this. Thank you, Mr. Uman, very much. All right. Did anyone remember who the fuck around and find out man is? It's Kyle Rittenhouse. That's right. Kyle Rittenhouse. He got thank you. Heidi. Thank you. Kyle Rittenhouse got the Kenosha hat trick. That's right. He shot 3 fucking liberals in one night. Killed 2 of them, blew the fucking arm off the third. Not because he is a vigilante, folks. Not because he was a criminal. He's been exonerated of all crime. He shot 3 raging, screaming, liberal, murderous, lunatic fucksticks because they were threatening to murder him and chasing him. Not just for 5 feet or 10 feet, but down a fucking street and through a neighborhood until he tripped and fell and had no choice except to raise his AR-15 and take care of business. Now, it's important to note that I believe he had a standard capacity 30-round magazine. Now, did he need 30 rounds to stop 3 bad guys? Well, let me explain some things. He was not being chased by 1, 2, or 3 bad guys. He was being chased by a fucking crowd of people. A crowd of people. When he went down and he had to defend himself, that crowd mostly dispersed, except for the guy who was going to use a skateboard to bash his fucking skull in. Basically, a skateboard, folks, can be turned into a very nasty, life-threatening weapon. It can become a deadly weapon. And then one of the guys pulled a pistol on him. So fortunately, he was only having to defend himself from 3 idiots at that point. But he could have very well had all of them continue to come at him. A bunch of screaming, communist, murderous thugs who had been getting away with. Folks, these weren't just people who all of a sudden changed and decided to do some bad stuff. They had been doing for days, if not weeks, riots every night, lawless chaos, mob mentality, burning, looting, and murdering. And they felt that when the sun went down, they could commit all manner of crime and get away with it. So Kyle Rittenhouse had good reason to fear for his life. And the justification for a standard capacity 30-round magazine became very self-evident. In fact, did Mr. Uman, did or did not the FBI release drone footage, recorded drone footage that they were following this incident as it played out, and they withheld that evidence that should have been turned over to the defense as part of, what do we call that? Discovery. That's it. If the government has any evidence, proof of anything, criminal or not, they're supposed to do it. Fucking FBI. FBI. There it is again. Now, speaking of federal government and being a bunch of fucksticks, Judge Engoron, guess what happened to him? He's the little schmarmy douche of a judge who tells President Trump he can't do this, he can't do that. You can't take a day off and go deal with your dearly departed mother-in-law. You can't defend yourself and speak for yourself. That Judge Engoron, who thinks he's some sort of heartthrob bodybuilder, he's a schmaltzy asswipe. Anyways, Judge Engoron, guess what happened to him? That's right. He was screwing over the president, and guess what? He was swatted. Someone called the SWAT team on him. On top of it, he received a bomb threat. Now, folks, I don't recommend doing that. I think that those are terrorist criminal offenses. The use of or threat of using explosives, guns, violence, murder, to get a political goal achieved is terrorism, right? It's not just acts of violence, it's the threats of acts of violence. And a bomb threat is a threat of violence. It's terrorist. And swatting someone, I believe, is terrorism. But I like to say to people like Judge Engoron, douchehole, how does it taste? A big mouthful of your anarchist cookbook, left-wing, Saul Alinsky bullshit. By the way, where are Obama's mentors from Chicago? What were their name? Bernadette and what was the other fuckhole? Mr. Room can't remember. He's from Chicago too, man. Was it Bernadette Peters? Fuck, I can't remember. But they blew up the fucking police station in Chicago in the 70s. They were a bunch of Marxist terrorists back then. I'm trying to remember the name of the group. Anyways, there's too much shit to remember. But you can look it up, right? That was one of Obama's mentors, one of his financial supporters. Look up Obama, financial supporter, terrorist. It'll come to me in a minute. It will. They were not the Watchtower. It doesn't fucking matter. It keeps hitting the tip of my tongue and then bouncing off my medulla oblongata. All right. Everyone knows medulla oblongata. Mr. Uman, who is up next? Go ahead and throw someone on the board there. And it is name redacted. He says, all the CEOs are placed and controlled, especially the last 4 years. It mirrors BlackRock's influence and policy pushing. BlackRock's influence and policy pushing has been diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. He says, you don't get past a point unless you join their team. 100% correct. You don't get to positions of executive authority in a corporation of a significant size unless you know somebody, you are the son or daughter of somebody, and you are properly politically kissing asses. You just don't get that. You don't get to be that. Name redacted is correct. You have to join the team. You have to prove that you're willing to work. And let me say this. Am I wrong? And I want you, this is a big thought. Am I wrong that if you want a position of power, authority, and wealth, whether it's government or private industry, you are offered that bit of authority, that position, that money. But before you can do it, you have to commit an act. You have to commit an act of illegality that everyone in that circle knows about, so they know you are part of their team. Whether it's murder, theft, what have you, they've got to commit an act so egregious that if it was ever exposed, they would be arrested and thrown in jail. They would be forever dismissed from the club. That's that big club that you and I ain't in. Thank you, George Carlin. If you want to be one of them, you have to do it. You have to probably swear some kind of satanic oath. You have to show them you're willing to do whatever they say, and you have to prove it by committing the act. And the act is committed. It's filmed, it's witnessed, it's recorded, and it's put in a control file. Am I wrong? Am I way off base? Am I citing some conspiracy theory about how corporations work? Or do you have to play by the game? The rules of the game. You're going to sell your soul to the devil? They fucking mean it. Thank you, Name Redacted. Great topic. Ooh, man, who is it? The Weather Underground. It just came to me, just like that. The Weather Underground was a terror group in the 1970s. Who were the leaders in it? Ooh, man, was it Bernadette Peters? Or am I pulling that name from some other criminal thing or some other thought? Can't remember who the fuck they are. Yep, Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn. I don't know who Bernadette Peters is. Whoever you are, forgive me. Bill Ayers, Bernadine Dorn, the Weather Underground terrorists who are, for some reason, can blow up a fucking police station, not be arrested, not be in prison the rest of their lives. Instead, they're running free and politically sponsoring Barack Hussein, Barry Soetoro Obama to run for president as the clean, articulate black guy of 2008, who was brought in at a time of national financial crisis because all of his, 4 years of experience in the Senate, supposedly qualified, Dumbo ears. The only thing smoking about his wife is that he smokes a pole. It's Michael. In fact, I want to direct everybody to Kaz's video this morning. The Italian Hillbilly did a video this morning talking about Michael Obama. Apparently is becoming the front runner to replace Joe Biden, who J.P. Morgan's political analyst said he ain't making it. He's warming up for the dance, but he's going to be on the bench. He's going to drop out, says this strategist / political financial prophet. Says after Super Tuesday and before the election, for health reasons, Joe Biden's going to step out. And I tell you, they're trying to say, in fact, I think Kaz, the Italian Hillbilly, go to his website, subscribe on YouTube. He reported that according to polls, in polling, Michelle Obama defeats President Trump. I don't buy that for a fucking second. Not for a second. Big crotch bulge Michael Obama, I believe, has lost its license to practice law. It's disgraced. She looks like an angry fucking Wookiee, and that's not a racist remark. I see Chewbacca shaved when I look at her. Him, whatever the fuck it is. You know. And I don't care what I look like. I don't give a fuck. Right? If I look like a Wookiee, I'd probably be proud of that shit. Anyways, I don't think she is. What has she got to her name? Her accomplishments. She has one soundbite that America thought was great. When they go low, we go high. Shut up, you fucking bitch. That was it. That's Michelle Obama right there. That's all she's got. Whatever. One snap frame. And it didn't even last anywhere near long as something like Get Her Done by Larry the Cable Guy. Now that had staying power. He's got more political credibility, Larry the Cable Guy does, for Get Her Done. Because how many people have actually gotten something done and said, well, let's get her done, and they did it? What the fuck has Michelle Obama done? Lost her law license, or had to give it up, or promised not to practice. She's disgraced. Michael. All right, thank you very much. Okay, man, who is next, man? I can't help it. I got to make fun of these people. They're assholes. Barking Wolf Spider says, wish I could hire their accountant. Whose accountant? Here we go. Damn it. I need some context.
I think he was talking about the lost $1 billion worth of munitions and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, the $1 billion. I tell you what, I wish, Barking Wolf Spider, I could be Joe Biden's accountant. Because he'd be like, how much money do I have, John? I'd be like, well, Joe, you're doing great, man. You're up to $50,000. You know, I've got like $30 million and $50,000 on my side of the plate. Just sign the email I sent to you, Joe, and I'll take good care of you. You know, I charge a big fee because, you know, it's a lot of money there, $50,000. Yeah, I wonder. And then, you know, in fact, I don't have to wonder, Barking Wolf Spider, as Ukraine was taking the initial shock of war against Russia, Ukrainians who are on the take were taking their US dollars and European euros and heading for the border. Where did that money come from? Printing press? Corruption? You bet. Thank you, Barking Wolf Spider. I appreciate it. Mr. Uman, who wants to be next? And it's Chin Music. He says, BWS, their accountant is most likely a diversity hire. Yeah, you bet. Diversity hires. Did I or did I not talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion this morning? Was that this morning? Yeah, I think so. I think you should watch Zero Dark 30 for January 11th, 2024. It's a losing proposition, folks. Diversity hires. I had some other people show up on that in the news today. I mean, it's just diversity. Part of the inclusion is the gay people, folks. The gay people. The LGBTQ plus IA, this, that, the other, animal, butt pirate, right? Those people, the pride people. Well, the ex-president of the Canadian Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Master, right? Their LGBTQ pride organization. Guess what? He is now facing charges, which means he should be arrested. He should be arraigned. What did he do wrong? Child sexual exploitation and possession, distribution of child abuse material. Surprise, 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 as Gomer Pyle, played by Jim Nabors, also a gay man. That's what he used to say in the show Gomer Pyle. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Really? The ex-president, the former president, well, he's not the president now, but he was, charges of sexual exploitation and possession, distribution of child abuse material. These are a bunch of sick, grooming fucking perverts who will steal your children, folks. You gonna trust them? You gonna trust them? You want to send your kids to a drag queen story hour? Yeah, that sounds fucking safe to me. Wow. But folks, we're not allowed to say anything about that, right? Well, this is America, Jack. And in America, you have rights. And one of those rights is the First Amendment, free speech. But in Ukraine, folks, in Ukraine, it was reported Ukrainian politician or former politician, Andriy Derkach. Andriy Derkach. He's a Ukrainian politician. And his quote was, those who speak aloud about Biden's corruption in Ukraine are in danger of physical elimination. So in the country of Ukraine, you cannot criticize Biden as a corrupt pile of shit, or you could disappear. You could be shot. You could drown. You could end up in a block of ice. It's probably the cheapest way to kill people in Ukraine is just throw them outside and throw some fucking water on them. Cheaper than bullets. They don't have any bullets in Ukraine. They've either fired them into the dirt at the front line and run, or they've sold them to other countries. Wow. 40,000 arms. That is weapons. Weapons. And I have a correction on yesterday. The 20 attorney generals are from Democrat states, and they were the ones asking Biden's safety czar, or whoever the fuck that was in the White House, to stop selling stop selling 5.56 ammunition to the public. Now, 40% of the nation's 5.56 ammo, which is used in the AR-15 and the M16 model, as well as the squad automatic weapon, the SAW. What an appropriate name for the fucking weapon, too, the SAW. That's what they called it when I was in there. Now, Lake City Ammunition is a government contractor, and they make 40%. That was the attorney generals. Those attorney generals should be impeached immediately for trying to deprive Americans of their constitutional right under the Second Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms, which comes from Almighty God, does not just cover the receiver of a weapon. It's the entire weapon, which includes the magazine, detachable or not. And it includes ammunition, a valuable and necessary component to the right to keep and bear arms to protect self and the state. Without ammunition, it's just a funny-shaped club. So when the government tries to take your ammunition, it is not an end run around the Second Amendment. It is a direct, treasonous attack on the Second Amendment. We need to start calling treason treason, because that is what it is. All righty, having some fun today. Good golly. Mr. Uman, we got some more out there? Uman says yes. If folks swarm, and he's referring back to my discussion earlier on this Big Thoughts Thursday, which is just a thought experiment, not a suggestion. These aren't the suggestions you're hearing. Uman says if folks swarmed on the Capitol, all they'd have to do is blockade everyone in, and they would win by attrition. Who would win by attrition, the government or the people?
The government would win. They could just basically starve everybody out.
Now, if you're going to enter the U.S. Capitol, called D.C., with weapons, 200,000 Americans, the weapons are not there to be used as clubs. They're there to be used.
Oh, I understand. But I mean, they wouldn't have to fire on anybody. They could blockade everybody in. And then if they were fired upon, that would give them justification to fire back.
That's correct. Now we have a fucking war. That's the point. You guys are the bad guys. We fucking know it. We're the Americans. You're the foot soldiers of a bunch of assholes in the Capitol. So, are you going to stand there and pretend you're not killing us by blockading us in? And are we going to allow you to blockade the will of the people, which is being expressed by 200,000 armed, raging, foaming lunatics who want to see people freed who have committed no crimes? So, again, I see your point exactly. In normal circumstance, yeah, they could blockade them in or just shut the bridges so they can't get in. But I'm talking about a situation where the people have said, I've had it. We're showing up with guns. If you show up with guns, it's on.
Yeah, it would be a bloodbath, and you would be portrayed as insurrectionists, joining the rest of the J6ers in jail, waiting a never showing up trial date.
I would not be arrested. Fuck them.
I understand that.
Yeah. But that's what they would want to do.
That's the bloodbath part.
Oh, well, 200,000 people is a lot. That's why I said, are we going to kill more people in one day than they killed in the entire Civil War?
Well,
We're going to kill more Americans in one day than World War One.
when you got the military or when you got the media behind your government, and they will frame the story, and the people that basically believe anything they're told on the news will believe that it was an insurrection and the insurrectionists were put down. It would not be people fighting for the freedom of our country were put down by a tyrannical government.
That's why I'm telling you, if the federal government killed Americans like that, the area I live in would be cleared of all federal agents, officers, buildings, etc., employees. They would not have a home anymore.
Yeah.
They just you can't see at that point we're in. It's do or die now. They're willing to kill you. You have to be willing to kill them. That's what war is. It's killing people and breaking things.
Yep.
And as a thought experiment only, that's all this is. Are we there yet, Oliver? Not a fucking chance.
No, not even close.
But it was interesting to see that the polls came out, 200,000 of them, mind you, not armed. But how hard would it be for them to storm, like the storming of the Bastille in France? Do you know this one very well?
Yeah, I'm familiar.
The people of France back then, this is in the early 1800s, they didn't have a lot of weapons. And at best, they had muskets.
Well, the military also did not have the type of weaponry that they have today. I mean,
That's correct.
yeah, you got the sound devices and the gases and everything else. I mean, it's. I understand what you're saying, but it would be a completely differently fought battle.
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, how many sound cannons, sonic weapons, and microwave heaters were used on the protesters in 2020?
None.
So they had those weapons. They chose not to deploy them. So either they don't really exist, or they were allowing it and sanctioning it by not stopping it. Now, to address your side of the weapons, back at the Bastille, the guards had fortified positions within the prison. The prison was a castle itself. That's how they used to build things. You want to keep prisoners in, you got to keep everyone else out. And they had at least as good arms as the people. Yet the people swarmed the Bastille, broke their way into it, regardless of the fact that it was fortified and blockaded from the inside. They were committed, and every one of those Frenchies that decided to work for King Louis perished. Now, the French also terrorized themselves and each other once they got rid of the king. So let's hear it for France.
Yeah, well, that's the other part of the equation. You know, it's be careful what you wish for. You might just get it, and there's no guarantee that what you get is going to be better than what you had.
Oh, we've got problems. There's not a very good understanding philosophically of what freedom and liberty is and what the purpose is. And of course, yeah, you would probably end up with local warlords and other assholes who think they're, kings. We've had that problem throughout this nation already, but I see what you're saying. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Careful what you wish for.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a very complicated. It's not a cut and dry. We go in there, we take care of business, and then everything's going to be peachy keen. It's not going to go like that.
Right. Well, I've thought about my neighborhood. Let's call it a militia. If shit were to go wonky and 10 of us showed up and said, well, I'm going to be the leadership position here. What if someone else within that leadership group decided they were going to take it by force? And what if I decided they were a fucking idiot and they needed to be taken care of instantly so they wouldn't be a future problem?
Yeah,
even in a small group, you're going to have a hell of a time maintaining a semblance of logical control and not be chaotic in and of itself.
Oh, sure. Everybody wants to be the boss because everybody knows better.
I would say, who here thinks they're qualified to run this organization? Do we have a vote? Do we have an arm wrestling contest? Do we throw our dicks out and measure them? How do you determine who is going to lead? Even in a small group, it becomes problematic. You're correct.
Well, in small groups, a leader usually emerges. Whether that's by being the biggest, ragingest asshole or just by, having the ability to coordinate and organize and delegate and things like that. So sometimes it's like a naturally formed leader will emerge, and other times somebody will take that leadership role by force.
Right. That's good. It's like I said, but I agree with you. Something bad happens and things go haywire and sideways. You could be guaranteed chaos for weeks or months with no clear outcome of your side even winning, much less your side winning and knowing what to do properly.
Right.
So,
And then with as vast as this country is, I mean, going in and storming things in D.C. could set off all kinds of other protocols. Who knows? I mean, maybe they institute martial law everywhere else in the country. And I mean, you don't know what that reaction is going to be.
yeah, martial law in the country, once again, is problematic for the government. They're outnumbered 1,000 to 1, literally.
Yeah.
It is once again, it's a command and control facade. And it requires cooperation from people to make martial law work. The same way law and order on our streets requires our cooperation as law-abiding citizens, because we have a trust and a belief that the government is doing things properly, and they've earned our trust. And right now, they're showing us how awful they are, man, and that they don't deserve our trust.
It's a voluntary compliance situation, really. I mean, when that voluntary compliance goes away, and I think it'll probably go away first in the big cities, it's going to be one hell of a mess.
Now we've circled back. Thank you, sir. You are good at this. I listened to some statistics, not from a military person, not from a fucking wacko prepper sitting in his bunker on a stack of tuna fish and sardines and spam and eggs and spam and ham and spam. It was a financial investment guy. And he said statistically, he says he normally doesn't talk politics, but I listened to him. His name is Michael Oliver, by the way. And he said when they polled Republicans and polled Democrats, between 30 and 40% of both groups said that whoever is elected in 2024, they will feel that violence will be necessary to deal with the problems that they developed, that created because of the loss or victory. So 30% of America, basically 1/3, somewhere between 30 and 40% of Democrats and Republicans both believe violence will be necessary to solve our problems.
Okay, now I believe that 30% of both sides feel that way, but I believe that 100% the liberal side will be much more willing to carry out that violence.
Out of the 30, let's call it 33%, right? 1/3 of those Democrats say violence will be necessary whether they win or lose. You're saying that all of those 33% are going to be willing to pick up a stick, a rock, a gun, a knife, and do something.
No, I said that 30%, a greater portion of them, as was demonstrated during the Summer of Love, a greater portion of them will actually be willing to commit the violence than the 30% of the conservatives that are saying the same thing.
Okay. I agree with you. I do. I agree with you. Looking back at the summer of mostly peaceful communists,
yep,
I was very tuned into areas around the country where the people said, you know what? Not in my fucking town. And they went and they literally beat the shit out of the people, ran them out of their fucking towns, harassed them more than they were being harassed, or shot them. I remember reading a story in Pennsylvania where someone was walking at night and they took a fucking bullet for the left for harassing a neighborhood. I found that quite refreshing. But I think you're right. You know, most of these guys, they're experienced at being shitheads, and they've got nothing to lose and everything to gain by being little communist fucks. Whereas we have a lot more to lose because, I don't know, we have cars, property, jobs, businesses.
Yep. No, and therein lies the problem. I mean, if you don't have to get up for work the next morning, then you got a lot more time on your hands to go protesting, burning, looting, and murdering at night.
Yeah, and sleep during the day.
Yeah.
So, what did I do? I had one of them piss me off, and I let them fucking have it. And both the sheriff's department and the police department showed up at the fifth wheel to have a talk with me and get my side of the story. And I remember telling them, because they asked, and I knew them both. They asked, on a scale of 1 to 10, John, how serious do you think this altercation was? And I told them I was like a 1. Me yelling at someone is a 1. Me tearing their fucking head off and shitting down their neck hole, that's a 10. We weren't anywhere near close to that. I was just giving them a piece of my mind, and they didn't like it. But they cried to the fucking police instantly. Now, maybe you, me, Kaz, others here on the Prepared Mind are probably a little more on the side of wanting to take action versus those saying, I'm not moving from here until I have to, and those saying, I don't like it, but I'm not doing shit. You're right, though. I agree with you. A bigger percentage of the idiots want to take action on the Democrat side.
Yep.
But I can ask you this. If they get violent and they start hurting Americans, not burning businesses, not looting stores, but literally going to people's houses and hurting them, do you think Republicans will step up at that point?
I don't think they will start going to their houses and hurting them, but I think they will be much more prone to take some more physical action if they see something happening.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would like to go find their anthill and stomp on it, but they're not anywhere near me that I know of. But yeah, I see what you're saying. They'll defend their home, but they won't go out looking for them.
Right. And then they also have the track record and knowledge of the fact that all these actions that they have taken over the last, what is it going on 7 years now or more? They face very little consequences compared to if we were to go out and do the same thing.
Now let's assume someone not named Kaz. This person is not named Kaz, but he's a veteran. He's had enough of this shit. And they show up at his door and throw a Molotov cocktail at his house and run off. He goes out with his garden hose, puts it out because they're idiots and they don't know how to make a proper Molotov cocktail. And he decides he's going to go hunt them down. Do you think there's those guys that are out there that when it happens and they're going to, and not Kaz, I'm not talking about Kaz. There's going to be people not like Kaz who are ready to go after them. And they're like, that's the last fucking straw. If they hit me tonight, they'll hit me tomorrow. Or they could hit my neighbor, or they could go after my children. And therefore, I now have no choice but to chase them back to their den, and stomp them.
I think there will be a degree of that. And again, I think a lot of that also will be dependent on what kind of a jurisdiction you're in. I mean, if you are in a rural area with a conservative police department, prosecutors, and everybody has a more conservative type values and attitude, you may be able to get away with stuff like that. But I mean, if you were to go do that in big blue city somewhere, I think that they will throw the book at you.
They would come after you instead of the other guys, yeah.
Yeah, and make an example of you.
Yeah, I like asking the leading questions and putting you in scenarios where it's hard to say that won't happen. So thank you for playing along.
Yeah.
But let's go to Polk County, Florida, where the sheriff says if someone comes through your door, you blow them right back out the door. Now, he does not suggest that you become a vigilante and hunt them down and their parents, their kids, their cats, their dogs, and wipe them all out and then get their yearbook and go kill everyone in their yearbook too. I know that Sheriff Grady Judd doesn't say that, but in an area like that, I would suggest that's kind of area where people go out. It's rural-ish and hunt down the problems. So
Yeah,
some interesting. It's going to be an interesting world.
especially if law enforcement is not doing their job in preventing this stuff. I mean, that's going to be another key factor. I mean, in
Once
areas
they
like
do-
that, hopefully, you have some incidents like that, and they will come down hard on those type of people. But I mean, if these things are happening in mass, I don't think there's going to be anything they're going to be able to do to stop it.
Yeah, you just you opened up that apple crate, and we look in
There,
there and see how many rotten fucking apples there are in that.
there's so many doors in this room. I mean, there are no cut and dry answers. A lot, I watch some of these guys, and they want to try to boil everything down to it's a black and white cut and dry situation. There's no such thing. You can't
It's a
answer
very
any of
colorful
this.
palette, and it's not a fucking rainbow either. It is very colorful.
Right. I mean, there's no cut and dry answer, and every situation is location dependent. And
What is that? A pizza?
A little heater. Freezing my ass off, man.
It's a fucking pizza. Okay.
There's so many variables, and so many degrees of everything. You can't just boil it down to a simple scenario. There is no such thing as a simple scenario.
Pick a hand, right? It's not that way.
Right.
Yeah. Well, when I talked to my friend, he was one of the two who showed up at my fifth wheel to talk to me about the altercation I had with these BLM ass wipes. And I said, dude, we got a problem. He says, you're on your own. And that report came from a lot of Northern California locations where there just was not enough law enforcement. Whether they were busy protecting themselves, handling emergency calls, people would call and go, I got a problem on my street. I'm sorry, we don't have anyone to help you. You're on your own. If I hear those words, ooh, man, I'm wearing the flak jacket with my shit.
I hear you. I mean,
what do you do at that point?
Make sure there are no witnesses.
Or I want a lot of witnesses. Did you see that asshole? He charged at us with a fucking gun and a torch.
Yep.
And I felt my life and others were threatened. Great bodily harm and injury. And so I put him down.
I tried calling the police. They told me I was on my own, and it was all I could do to stop them, to protect myself and my family, my friends, my neighbors, the community, whatever. Yeah.
I have many witnesses. He charged at us bearing a weapon.
Yeah.
I couldn't trust that it was unloaded.
Or that it was fake.
Or that it was a ham sandwich.
Yeah. Yeah. These conversations, I mean, you can run these scenarios for hours and take that same exact scenario.
It's fun.
Run it in the country, in the middle of nowhere, run it in the suburbs somewhere, run it in a purple area, run it in a blue area, run it in a red area. I mean, you're going to have different outcomes every single time.
Yeah. Well,
because so much of it is going to be subjective as well. And it depends on who gets to decide what that subjectivity is.
Yeah. I made a mistake and went into that room with a can of worms, Pandora's box, and a crate full of rotten apples with you and gone way over time. I've got a notification here. I've got a meeting to attend. So I need to attend to that business. And I want to thank you, Mr. Uman, for coming on today and sharing your thoughts, man.
All right, man. You have a good night. Everybody out there, have a good night. Stay warm, be safe, and stay mentally tough.
That's right. Semper Fi and Godspeed.